Day, popular APC strongwoman Dr. Sylvia Blyden breaks her silence exclusively on SLBC television. Join your host Joseph Kapuwa as he talks with Dr. Sylvia Blyden on her political journey over the past 30 years, with emphasis on allegations that she is of an unstable political standing. Dr. Sylvia Blyden has denied being a member or sympathizer or propagandist for the former RUF rebels, but her political detractors continue to make such allegations against her. What are her thoughts on the issue? She was at the youthful age of only 35 when the late former president, His Excellency Alhaji Ahmad Tijan Kaba, bestowed upon her a high national honor. Why did the president honor Sylvia Blyden despite her youthful age? What does she see for herself in the future? Does she still have presidential ambitions? To find out, watch Bottom Line this Tuesday, October 26, 2021 on the SLBC, the nation's public service broadcaster. You can also catch us on Facebook at SLBC Live Channel 31 and on other social media platforms. It's Bottom Line. Miss it, miss out. 2021 on the SLBC, the nation's public service broadcaster. You can also catch us on Facebook at SLBC Live Channel 31 and on other social media platforms. It's Bottom Line. Miss it, miss out.
Hello and welcome to Bottom Line, your good governance and enlightenment campaign talk show. Tonight we will talk to a household name, a woman with many hats, and we'll be following her journey in the last 3 decades. The name is Dr. Sylvia Blyden, and she is my studio guest. A lot has been either said or rumored, either openly or in the corners, about her personality, ranging from allegations of her unstable political standing to her being a propagandist and member and or sympathizer of the Revolutionary United Front Party or RUF. Well, tonight Dr. Blyden will clarify these assumptions and tell us the bottom line of her philosophy, all on this program, Bottom Line. You too can have your say on our Facebook page at SLBC TV channel 31 or by SMS to 030022 The number again, 030022 My name is Joseph Kapuwa. Let's get started. Good evening, Madam Sylvia Blyden, and welcome to the SLBC.
Good evening, and thank you for having me, Joseph. I want to start off by saying I'm very grateful for the very instantaneous response you gave me when I reached out to you that I need to speak to Sierra Leoneans, and I believe the best medium for me to break my silence is the national public broadcaster. And I want to tell the people of Sierra Leone that I called you on a Sunday and I just said to you, I want to break my silence, I want to talk. And immediately you said, that's why we have a national broadcaster and you're welcome at any time. So I want to say thank you for hosting me and thank you for not even hesitating to welcome me on the broadcaster. Thank you.
We're happy that you agreed to, be here because a lot of people will want to understand your position on certain issues, and maybe you can offer us an insight into your journey so far. But I don't know how to address you, or rather how I should Am I seeing the experienced webmaster, the political party leader? Am I seeing Dr. Blyden, the former special executive assistant to former President Nkrumah and former minister? Am I seeing Dr. Blyden, the bona fide member of the All People's Congress? How would you prefer to be addressed?
For tonight, I am here as a politician. I'm here as a member of the All People's Congress. I'm here as as a female politician who has been harassed and told all types of things, and I would prefer you leave out all the internet, media practitioner, medical doctor, which are all
it's a pamphlet of designations, if you like.
And let's just call me a female politician.
All right.
From the main opposition, APC.
Now, what is your personal philosophy, Doctor? I mean, what guides your daily and political life?
Well, in politics, as in every aspect of my life, I live by the golden rule, which is do unto others as you wish others to do unto you. That's like, it encompasses everything about how I practice my politics. So, and that's why you would not see me in what we would call Dakadeke politics, where I'm not straightforward, I'm not honest, I'm not upfront. You will never see me in that. What you see is what you get with Sylvia Blyden in politics. I'm very straightforward, and I treat other people exactly as I want them to treat me.
At any point, can we separate the personal from the public life and philosophy?
I have been able to do that quite well. A lot of people know my public life, a lot of people know my political life. They don't know much about my personal private life, and I'm very thankful to God for that I've been able to effectively manage and separate my public persona from my private personal life.
Is there a, if you like, heritage influence and lineage of thinking and probably acting in the way we have come to know Dr. Sylvia Olayinka Blyden, bold, to say her mind and all of this?
Most definitely. I come from a family in fact, from two powerful families that are political families, and both from my mother's side and from my father's side. Unfortunately, both of my parents, they brought me up in a manner where they made me become very courageous, very bold, and believing first and foremost that for as long as you believe in God, don't ever be afraid of man. So I grew up in a family where I was emboldened. I was showed that the only person you have to be afraid of is God, nothing else. And because I come from a long line of politicians, not just in Sierra Leone, but in Liberia, in the Virgin Islands, I come from a very political family. I have that confidence that my ancestors have done it before. There's nothing stopping me from also doing it. So it shows in the way I come across, very bold and very courageous. It is part of my lineage.
Let's talk about your student days. From your student days to being special executive assistant and later cabinet minister, has there been a change? I mean, if so, what may have influenced the change?
Sylvia has always been Sylvia. From the time I was a student politician, I started politics, active politics as a student leader. And the Sylvia you see today is the same Sylvia that my colleagues saw leadership potential in me and elevated me to become the first woman to be elected and win an election as student union president. It's the same person you see sitting across from you. I have not changed. What I stood for back then is exactly what I still stand for. And if you allow me, I would just give like a summary of what I have been on politically since I was born.
Yeah, we will get there. I mean, it's talking about student activism. What informed that activism, your student activism and engagement in student politics, as a matter of fact? Because that is something unusual for medical students.
It's true, that is quite true. I think politics is in my DNA It's a part of me. You read up my history. I come from a family of presidents. I have 2 ancestors who were presidents of Liberia.
Right.
I have an ancestor who was vice president of Liberia. I have an ancestor who wanted to be president of Sierra Leone. So I've come from lineage of political leaders. So it's part of my DNA, I think. It's instinctive. And then there's something about me that my peers normally see as someone who can lead them. So that gravitates them to see me as a potential leader. And that happened when I was in college. I never imagined to be student union president. It's so interesting how it happened. Yeah, I never imagined it. We had someone who was a student union president. He's currently working at the military, Brigadier General Fodisa.
Okay.
He was the president of our students union. And we also had, and he appointed me as one of his ministers. So he appointed me as his minister. I think I was Minister of Foreign Affairs. And then he handed over to another gentleman who is now working at the CDC in America, Dr. Desmond Williams. He was the next student's president, and he also appointed me as one of his ministers. Now, we were at a party, at a college party, and Wilshire Johnson, you know, the famous politician Wilshire Johnson, his son was a medical student. And Sir Kotekwi, another coming from a famous political family, Sir Pakiwa, and a group of them, they come to me and they say, Sylvia, we want to make you our next president of student union. So I burst out laughing. It was a party. And I said, well, now don't drunk, eh? You know, I was laughing and telling them, you've had too much to drink, because never before has a woman been a student union president in the entire history of Sierra Leone. So they said, no, we have not come to drink. We are not drunk. We want you. We've seen leadership in you, and we've decided. These were all men. We've decided we want you to be the next president of the student union. And that's how it started. They gave me a nickname of Margaret Thatcher. She was then a prime minister. They gave me a nickname, and they created this campaign mechanism, and that was it. That's how I became student union president. Contested against 4 men, and then the men started dropping off. 2 of them dropped off. So they don't want a woman to beat them.
Yeah. So, and as the first female president, you know, at the College of Medicine, I mean, you just mentioned, is that where the fire in you, you know, started burning for a political career?
I would imagine so, because obviously my colleagues saw something in me that made them tell me, we want you, and they campaigned for me. They created the strategy, everything, and I became student union president. It wasn't easy, it wasn't smooth, because we reached a point where some of the young men on campus said, oh, their fathers are laughing at them in the house. How can a woman be your president? Go impeach that woman. Wow. So they tried to impeach me, and I learned a lot in the process, and I became politically minded. And it has been non-stop, because the time I was in college was a pivotal period in Sierra Leone's history. What do I mean by pivotal period? This was the time where we were struggling to change from one-party dictatorship to multi-party democracy.
Okay.
And we had this fantastic head of state, His Excellency, the late former President Joseph Saidu Momo. He was a listening president. So he listened to the cry of the people. And he had an Attorney General at the time, Dr. Abdullahi Conte. I was politically conscious. And right next door to the College of Medicine campus, we had a political journalist called Franklin Bontin Davis. And he was a friend of my dad. And I would leave campus, I would go to Franklin Bontin Davis, sit with him. He had a newspaper called New Shaft, help him to edit New Shaft as a college student, and agitate for multi-party democracy. So I was in there when we changed from one-party state to multi-party democracy. That is why I'm one of the few Sierra Leoneans who can quote off-head sections of the 1991 Constitution without winking my eyes. I was part of it. I was there. We did the 1991 Constitution. So I know everything about the process, what happened, and I also know what we wanted as citizens, what we wanted in 1991, and what President Momo gave to us.
Were you part of a political party then?
Of course. I was of the All People's Congress Party. Everybody then was a member of the All People's Congress Party. But in my own case, I was particularly so because since I was born, I was APC. How? Today, before I came on this program, I saw a news report in the Awareness Times email box from Addis Ababa, and it says the Sierra Leone ambassador to Addis Ababa, who happens to be one of my regent Fambul, Ambassador Adekunle King, and the current foreign minister, Professor David J. Francis, the foreign minister, that the two of them had succeeded in convincing Nigeria to step down for Sierra Leone to now be the sole candidate from West Africa to sit on the United Nations Security Council. And I was like, what a coincidence. Because one of the things that I was going to speak about today is what happened on October 1st, 1971, the day I was born. I say I was APC since the day I was born, and I'm very specific and I'm very deliberate when I say that. Because on the day I was born, my grandfather, my mother's father, Solomon A.J. Pratt, was the foreign minister of Sierra Leone. And using his skills, he was an international diplomat before. He worked for the UN as an international diplomat. He was able to get Sierra Leone so positioned internationally that we were on the United Nations Security Council. And not only that, Sierra Leone held the chairmanship of the United Nations Security Council in 1971. Very few people know this. I know. And why do I know? On the day I was born, October on behalf of this all-powerful China today in 1971. And on the day I was born, October 1st, 1971, my grandfather was on the podium as the chairman of the UN Security Council and the Sierra Leone, because he represented President Shaka Stevens at the UN General Assembly debate. And he was speaking passionately for SWAPO, Namibia, because all of these countries back then were, so Bangladesh, all of these countries back then were suppressed. They didn't have a voice. They were either under colonial masters. And after giving a powerful speech, he came up the podium and he was then the foreign minister. He was met by the ambassador, who was then Taylor Kamara, and the head of Chancery, Kogi Taylor, with a telegram.
And baby Sylvia was born?
Yes, yes. And they gave him in those days we didn't have telephones, we didn't have fax, we didn't have, the way they communicate is by telegram. So they said to him, Mr. Minister, here's a telegram. And he opens his telegram, and what's in the telegram? That he has a second granddaughter, and they give the time that the granddaughter was born. And I was born at the time my grandfather was agitating for China, Namibia, SWAPO, and all of those names. So my grandfather wrote a telegram back to Freetown, and he said, this girl is going to be a special girl in Sierra Leone. Get her an APC membership card immediately.
Wow.
So I have been an APC member since the day I was born.
All right. Okay, that's clear. Now let's look at another aspect. Your affiliation or alleged affiliation with the Revolutionary United Front, or the RUF. I mean, the allegations that you were very close to the leader of that movement, the Revolutionary United Front, that's the late Fode Sebana Sanko, and that in fact your sister was secretary to him. How would you respond insofar as that affiliation is concerned? Even call it as you are more or less a surrogate to the RUF leadership.
Well, you see, you hear all these stories, but you never see anything tangible that is evidence that shows that Sylvia was a member of the RUF or Sylvia was close to Fodi Sanko. You never see any evidence. You hear these vague allegations out there. They are thrown out there to derail my political ambitions. It started off with, it was a journalist. A lot of people sometimes say, why is Sylvia so passionate about these criminal libel laws and saying that they should not remove the criminal libel laws? It is the experience I went through. There was this journalist called Olugode. Terrible man. He's a horrible man.
That is Richie Olugode.
Yes. He was a terrible, horrible fellow. And in 1995, when I was student leader in Sierra Leone, I wrote to the United Nations Secretary General asking for sponsorship to attend the Beijing Conference on Women. Because for the first time, the world was going to have a conference where women were coming from all over the world to discuss the issues of women's rights. Women's rights were human rights, and we wanted to discuss how women get advanced. My mother was a permanent secretary. At that time, she was the permanent secretary for the Ministry of Social Welfare. I was a student president in my own right. And I wrote a letter to the United Nations asking for financial support. There was a lady who was then the UNDP resident representative. She was called Elizabeth Luanga. And I wrote to Elizabeth Luanga on my College of Medicine letterhead saying, I'm the first woman to be elected a student president in the entire history of Sierra Leone, and I want to attend the Beijing Conference on Women. The UN Secretary General at the time was Boutros Ghali. Boutros Ghali replied back through Elizabeth Luanga to finance me to go to China, to go to the Beijing Conference on Women. I go to the Beijing Conference on Women, and my mother happens to be the permanent secretary for Ministry of Social Welfare. So she also has to go in her capacity as a permanent secretary for social welfare. And Richie Olugode, not knowing anything about how I got my financial support, how I went to China, started writing in his newspaper that why should the Blydens take all the positions, all the slots and go to China, and it was just writing and writing and writing. So he had this issue with me since 1995. When I came back from China, and I actively said that I am going to be president of Sierra Leone one day, no matter what is written about me in the newspapers. Because at the time I was student union president, I was always in the media, I was being interviewed on the BBC and stuff. Then Richard Olugode wrote in his newspaper, and I have that newspaper. Sylvia Blyden being a member of the RUF, of me being close to Fodi Sanko, of me being, because in fact now what they say I was a founding member of the RUF.
Yes, we hear that. Yeah.
So how can I be a founding member of the RUF in 1991 when I was in Freetown, a student at the College of Medicine here in Freetown?
Okay.
It's impossible.
Yes, Doc. The allegations.
But no, let me.
The allegations. I mean, you make those clarifications. I mean, when you get it, we just want to see if we can tie it with this bit of it, because yes, you've made a point. These allegations continue, but people are yet to come out with tangible evidence to substantiate all of these. There remain allegations, but there are so many, and the assumptions are so many. One was that you were also responsible for operating they call it the Ninja website and all
that
of those. Is that where you developed the interest in the media and started probably even publishing, if so?
No, I already told you about Franklin Bunting Davis from 1989. His office was right next door. His office was right next door to the College of Medicine. This was 1989. He had a newspaper called New Shaft. In 1991, when Kingsley Linton and Tony Hesmat, these were two Nigerians, they were working in Liberia, and the war in Liberia drove them to Sierra Leone, and they came, and they opened up a new media. They called it the Concord Times. I was one of their shadow editors. I was then in medical school. I was one of the shadow editors at Concord Times. You can ask Kingsley. Tony is no longer in active journalism. Kingsley now works at the United Nations. He was here recently for their...
he was editor of Concord Times?
He owned it. He owns it. He owns Concord Times. And I was one of the shadow editors at Concord Times. They all know that. I was part and parcel of Concord Times. I was a medical student. I was with Newshaft. I was a medical student. I was with Kingsley and Tony. So me being associated with journalism has been like this all my life. But coming back to your issue of Ninja, I don't know what people believe or think about Ninja, but what I know was Ninja was the National Independent Neutral Journalist Association. That is NINJA, that's Ninja. That's what I knew for Ninja. And I know that Ninja was formed by a group of journalists inside Sierra Leone after the then government said that no journalist can publish any news report without being vetted by the Ministry of Information. So there's a statement that is online up to today. It was issued, and I know the date, on the 15th of December 1998, saying that we are journalists, we cannot practice our profession by submitting our work to be edited first and approved and vetted before we publish. So that's my understanding of how Ninjas was formed. But because these journalists could not show their identities inside Sierra Leone at the time, they kept themselves anonymous. Just in the same way that the then Minister of Information had kept himself anonymous whilst he was running 98.1. Now, the only connection that you would put between these journalists inside Sierra Leone, because at the time I wasn't in Sierra Leone, I was in America. I was then living in America. The only connection you put between these journalists and Dr. Sylvia Blyden is the fact that Dr. Sylvia Blyden was advocating that these journalists are correct to go underground. They value their lives. They don't want to be killed. So they were right here in Freetown, and they were filing reports from Freetown, and I'm in America, and I'm saying they have a right to be able to had tremendous respect for me. So for the first time today, I'm going to explain to Sierra Leoneans, and with your permission, if you allow me time, because this is something that Sierra Leoneans are going to learn for the first time today, and if you patiently allow me to just take my time and explain to them so that they can understand how some issues came about and the role I played in the peace process.
We'll come to the peace process, Doc. I mean, we'll come to your role, even if not only for the peace process, but I mean generally as a Sierra Leonean and the role they have played in that regard. I mean, we'll come to that bit. Just trying to exhaust these bits, these allegations.
Well, that's key. This what I want to take my time to explain now is key for people to understand what was happening back then, and why is it that we are at a situation now where people are saying, oh, Sylvia was a friend to Fodi Sanko. Well, how could I be a friend to Fodi Sanko? Or Sylvia was an RUF member. How could I be a member of the
your sister was secretary to him?
That is what they say. I am not aware of this. You see, these are things that they say, these are stories that they float out there. What I'm aware of is what I can say. What I know is that I was in America, and I'm told that, oh, there was an issue at Fodi Sanko's house, and they're rounding up people in the same way they were rounding up people before. And I hear that my sister was supposed to be one of those they round up, and then they release her. But as far as I know, and up to today, I'm not aware of my sister being Fodi Sanko's secretary. Okay. And I'm wondering, how would my sister be Fodi Sanko's secretary? You see, these are things they put out there. You're trying to justify why you're calling Sylvia a rebel. you say, well, his sister said I'm in secretary to.
All right, we'll come to your role in the peace process. But then again, what is the doc between you and the AFRC as rumored. And the reports suggest you had a relationship with the AFRC because you were appointed Deputy Minister of Health, and that even at some point yes, I mean that's what we read around, that's what people say.
Actually, this is the first time I'm hearing that word.
Yeah, that you are even Deputy Minister of Health, and that you even took Johnny Paul Kuruma at some point on a visit to Connaught Hospital.
Well, first of all, I mean, it's complete nonsense that I was minister under AFRC. Complete nonsense. I wasn't in Sierra Leone. I was in America the entire time. The only time I came to Sierra Leone, I came to change my visa because I went to America as a visitor, and then I engaged at Kaplan University to do my medical license board, and I came to change my visa, and I crossed over to Sierra Leone. That's the only time I can, a matter of few days. And when I was coming, the then Director General, well, it wasn't called Director, I think it was called Director General of SLBS.
Yes, Director General.
Jipu Felix George was that his
Director General.
Director General.
Yes, because the last Director General of the SLBS was Gina Banda Thomas.
Yeah, no, this was Jipu Felix George.
Yes, he must have been the
So Jipu Felix George was like an uncle, and everybody is worried about, they have these Nigerian Alpha jets, they're coming, they're throwing bombs, and everybody's worried, how does this peace process go? So I'm coming to change my visa from visitor's visa to student visa in Guinea-Conakry. And Uncle Jipu says to me, Sylvia, because I have these skills, it's nothing I trained for, how to develop websites, it's a skill I have. He says, if you can assist the SLBS, not SLBC, SLBS. I have his emails up to now, and so we created a website called www.slbs.net. If you check the records for that domain name, you would see Jipu Felix George was the owner, and the technical person was Sylvia Blyden. So slbs.net was the website that Uncle Jipu had me create for the SLBS.
Okay.
So that was during the time now. They wanted, I mean, everybody wants peace process, everybody wants the peace to start. President Tijan Kaba then was in Guinea, but he had signed something called the Conakry Peace Accord, where they gave dates and times for everybody to come back to Sierra Leone and have the peace process. So Uncle Jipu was saying to me, help me out, let's have SLBS news online, let's have. So I worked with Uncle Jipu on creating slbs.net. That's the nearest you can connect me to the AFRC regime. That's the nearest. Everything else they are telling you is so nonsense. If there's ever, I don't remember any such occasion of going with Johnny Paul to Connaught Hospital, but if anything like that happened, maybe I would probably have been with Uncle Jipu during the time that he's doing the SLBS.net for a few days. Because when I came to do my visa changing, I came to Uncle. How could Tijan Kabat take this same Sylvia and give her this type of very high opulence, very high honor? And tonight, you need to hear this story. You need to learn and know that the old man wasn't crazy. The old man knew how much I deserve this honor. And I also know that not only do I deserve this honor, but I am one day going to be honored by the people of Sierra Leone, even higher than this one. So tonight, let me tell you this story. It's a story that would start from when I first met President Obasanjo of Nigeria. At the time, he had just been released from jail in 1998 in America. In 1998 in America, we had Sierra Leoneans, a group of us who believed in working for peace in Sierra Leone. And we would regularly meet, and we would meet with the Nigerians who were fighting General Abacha. Because General Sani Abacha was suppressing Nigeria. He was a horrible dictator and he was suppressing Nigeria. But he was backing President Kaba in Sierra Leone as a means of cleaning up his image and pretending he's a Democrat. So there were a group of us, and I will name some of them tonight. I would name the leader, the then main opposition leader, who was in exile because he could not come back to Sierra Leone as he was afraid for his life. Dr. John Karifa Smart. He was the leader of the UNPP, which was the largest opposition party in Sierra Leone. I would name the current Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honorable Dr. Abbas Cherino-Bundu. He was then the leader of the PPP party. I would name the Honorable Edward M. Toure. He was then the leader of the All People's Congress, the APC. All of these people were in exile in America. I was also in America. And we would regularly meet with the Nigerians during the time Abacha was alive. At this time, Obasanjo was in jail. He was a political prisoner. When Abacha died, Obasanjo was released from jail and he was invited to come to America to meet the Nigerian activists who had been working for his release, agitating for democracy to return to Nigeria. And Obasanjo asked to meet the Sierra Leoneans who were also working with these Nigerians. By some coincidence, all of these names I had called, we all used to work together. They somehow forgot to tell me the exact time that we should meet with Obasanjo. So Obasanjo met with between 9 to 10 powerful Sierra Leonean leaders. All of these people, Abbas Bundu, Khalifa Smart, Eddie Toure, Alimami Sila. He also came here and formed a political party of his own. Honorable Boskul, Ibrahim Bundu, who became majority leader here. He was are in Sierra Leone, and they said 17 tribes. So that was basically the end of the meeting. So the Nigerian activists called me that evening and said to me, Dr. Blyden, why did you not attend this meeting today? If only you had attended, it would have neutralized the perception that it's just two tribes in Sierra Leone fighting themselves, the Timini versus the Mede. He said, we want Obasanjo on board. At the time, Obasanjo was just released from prison. He wasn't thinking of being president. And we need you to talk to Obasanjo as somebody from the Western area who is not a Timini. So they connected me to Obasanjo. He had left Washington, D.C. and gone to New York. And they connected me with Obasanjo on the phone. Now, before I spoke to Obasanjo, I did research. I went to the internet. I read up about him. I read up about all his works. When I engaged him on the phone on behalf of the Sierra Leone peace issues, I would quote something that he said in 1960, in 1970, in 1980. And he was very amazed that I knew so much about him. And he's thinking that this must be somebody who is in her 50s and 60s who knows all these things that happened. Because I would tell him what he said when Mandela was arrested. I would tell him what did he say. And he was on the phone speaking to me. I became like a member of his family. My mother at the time was in detention in Sierra Leone. Amongst all the permanent secretaries who had been working, she was unfairly detained. All of them were detained. So Obasanjo connected me with Amnesty International and many of these people, because he had also been a political prisoner. And then he gave me his direct line at the house, at his house in Nigeria. And he says to me, keep in touch about your mother's issue. After a few weeks, I called all these people. In fact, he had already called some of them in advance to say, there's this lady from Sierra Leone, you have to help her. After a few weeks, I called at the number he gave to me, and a lady answers the phone. The lady says, hello, and I say, yes, can I speak with the General Obasanjo? And she says, who is this? And she was like not happy with this person calling. So who is this? So I said, oh, I'm from Sierra Leone, I live in America. And she ended up and said, oh, are you Olainka? Imagine. I said, yes, ma. He said, oh, I am Mrs. Stella Obasanjo. General, your Olainka has called. That means he had gone home and spoken about me to the wife. And from that moment, myself, the wife, General Obasanjo became very close. They would call me on the phone. If they don't get me, they would leave messages on the phone. And we became close, and people knew I was like a part of their family. When he was asked to be president of Nigeria to contest, when people came, he called me in Nigeria and asked me for advice. We were that close. Should I go back into politics? Olainka, what do you think? We were that close. And I said, why not? If you become president of Nigeria, my uncle is president of Nigeria, why not? And I supported him. He had no money. This is the interesting thing. Nigerians pumped in money to make him president. The support I gave to him was to open up a website called www.obasanjo.com. And myself and the wife ran the www.obasanjo.com website. 1 week to the Nigerian elections, and this is the point I want Sierra Leoneans to listen to, because this shows you that this world is a spiritual world. When God wants some things to happen, it happens according to how God dictates it. 1 week to the Nigerian elections in 1999, early 1999. Auntie Stella calls me, his wife is, and they need some data to be put on the website very, very urgently for certain strategic reasons. They need this data. But this data was in a book called Letters to Obasanjo that was in Nigeria. There was a lady in New York who had this book, and they asked me to ask the lady so that I can get the book and take the contents and put it on the obasanjo.com website. Unfortunately, she searched and she couldn't find the book. And then Auntie Stella calls and says, Benga has just told us he has a copy. Who is Benga? Obasanjo's son. His son, who was a medical doctor living in Baltimore. From my house to Baltimore is about an hour and a half drive. I jump into my car, call Benga, say I'm coming on the way, I'm coming to pick up Uncle Olu's book, Letters to Obasanjo. I go up there, me and him will have dinner, pick the book. I'm driving back down to my house in Maryland. My cousin calls me on the phone. My cousin called Elaine, she was called Elaine Gaba. Elaine calls me on the phone, and she has been, by coincidence, just as I was driving from Baltimore to get to Maryland, around the point where you can bend into Virginia, she was living in Virginia, is when she calls me. And she said, hey doc, hey, from when you say they can't visit this my new boyfriend. She had a new guy she was dating, and she wanted me to meet this new boyfriend who came from London. So I said, okay, I'm tired, I just came from Baltimore, and I swerved the car, I turned my car around to go back to visit Elaine. Because of the importance of the book, I did not leave it in the vehicle. I held the book in my hand and I walked into Elaine's house. I entered Elaine's house. I said, yes, Bola can be this boyfriend. Let me know this new guy you have. She wanted me to meet this guy. And she introduces me to this guy. First time I was meeting him. Who was this guy? Oluni Robin Coker. I knew the name Robin Coker, but I could not figure out who really he was. I had heard the name before. And Elaine introduces me to Oluni, and she says, oh, this is my boyfriend. And so I'm holding this book. So Elaine has listened. I'm holding this book up, Obasanjo, Letters to Obasanjo. And I'm explaining that, oh, I just came from Obasanjo's son. I have to go put the information in this book into the obasanjo.com website. And Oluni has tons, and I could see he's interested. And he's like, do you know Obasanjo? Because at that time, Obasanjo was the leading presidential candidate. The elections had not yet been held. He said, do you know Obasanjo? I said, yeah, I know him very, very well. He's like my uncle. I'm part of their family. And he was like, I said, yeah. I said, I can even play you messages on my phone. So, I'm 20-something years old. So I play my voicemail, and they hear Obasanjo calling to check on me, Obasanjo's wife calling to check on me, and say, yes, I'm part of their family. I say, if they win election, I don't get elections.
How would you link this to the process, the peace process?
That's where we're coming to. So I said, yes. I said, if they wins the elections next week, That's where he's the president, is my uncle, who become president of Nigeria. So I notice he's interested, and we talk, and I go back home. The elections are held within a week. I put all the information on the website, and the results are announced. Obasanjo had a landslide victory of 60-something%. His closest rival had like 30-something%. The very next day, my cousin calls me, Elaine, and she says, Sylvia Oluni wants to talk to you. I say, oh, okay, what is it about? So I talk to him. So Oluni comes on the phone, and he says to me, Sylvia, you are going to have to save Sierra Leone. I said, How? He said the peace process is stalled in Sierra Leone, and my friend and brother Omri Goli has met the Americans, the State Department, he has met the London Whitehall, he has met the ECOWAS Secretary General, but everybody says the peace in Sierra Leone is in the hands of Olusegun Obasanjo. But unfortunately, because ECOMOG was then controlling Sierra Leone. But unfortunately, everybody has tried for this, my friend Omrigoli, to speak to Obasanjo, and we have not been able to meet Obasanjo. He's now the president-elect. I know, I have listened to the voice messages, I have seen that you are close to them. Is there any way you can get us to talk to Obasanjo? Because he is going to hold the key to the peace process. Now, Obasanjo is president-elect, and I won't just give access to anybody like that. So I call him, I always call him Uncle Olu, and I explained to him, I said, these people say there's a problem. The peace process, ECOWAS is on board, the State Department is on board, London is on board, but there's a challenge. They need to speak to you because you have control of the entire Nigerian soldiers in Sierra Leone at the time. So they need to speak to you so that you can understand what is happening. And he says, peace process in Sierra Leone? I say, yes, Ongolo. And then I said to him, because when you have different people helping him to become president, and my own role was helping with the website, the Obasanjo.com website. I said, Uncle, the way you can help me, according to what I have been told, the peace process in Sierra Leone would surely work if you, as the Nigerian head of state, can convince Tijan Kaba about the need to get proper dialogue with all warring factions, because at that time it wasn't just the RAF. You also had the West Side Boys. Okay. You had different groupings. So then he says to me, don't give them my direct line. What I can do for you, put them on the phone and give your phone to them to talk to me, but don't give them my direct line. So I call Oluni and I say, Oluni, well, you're lucky. Uncle Olu says he will talk to you people. But unfortunately, I cannot give you his number, his direct line.
He talks to you on your phone.
So the only way you can talk to me, him is on the phone. And he says, oh, Omri is in Europe, in Macedonia, Croatia. Joseph, I had to take my own money, my phone, to make an international call, and it was so expensive back then, to Macedonia, get Omri on the phone. I had never met him in my life, but Oluni introduces me to him on the phone. I had to make an international phone call to Macedonia, and then Omri is on the line. Then I call Uncle Olu in Nigeria, and then I do a 3-way call for them to talk. But that's the only condition under which Obasanjo will talk to them, if I connect them and give them my phone to speak with. So I am on the line, and I'm listening to all the challenges. Omri takes all his time, and it was quite convincing, and Obasanjo was writing down all the notes, all the concerns, all the challenges for the peace process. And then Obasanjo says to Omri, yes, the ECOWAS Secretary General, because at that time was the Secretary General ECOWAS had. The ECOWAS Secretary General had informed me, but this wasn't a priority. But the way you have explained to me, and for the sake of Sylvia, I am going to make this one of my top priority. Immediately I am sworn in as president. That is the nearest that you can connect me to RUF. Because then Obasanjo says to Omrigoli, give me a few days. After I've investigated all of these points, I will talk to my daughter, because he used to call me daughter, and Olainka will get back to you. Because he never wanted me to give his direct line to Omri. And that's why I'm naming all these names today for the first time, for people to understand where all of this, the nearest that comes to the peace process and Sylvia. After a few days, Uncle Olu calls me. He says, connect me with the gentleman for the peace process. I have spoken to so and so person. So I connect him again, three-way call again. And I became the person now who Obasanjo knew I would never release his direct line. When he changes his direct line, he gives his direct line to me. And I connect Omri Goli. And eventually, Omri, Obasanjo, Tijankaba, ECOWAS had a perfect understanding for the peace process to go on. Because it is a fact that Obasanjo's insistence on peace for Sierra Leone delivered peace for Sierra Leone. And without me, where would the peace have been? That is the nearest. I am revealing this for the first time tonight, because these are things that all of these names I've named, they know. This is the nearest you can facilitate, you can connect me to Ariel. But it gets even more intriguing. Even more intriguing. After the Lome Peace Accord had been signed, because first they had the Lome ceasefire agreement that was in immediately after Obasanjo became president. He was sworn in as president in May of 1998. Immediately after, he ensured there was a ceasefire. He got the rebels to sign a ceasefire, he got Jankaba to sign a ceasefire, and May 25, 1999, there was a ceasefire. So they had the ceasefire agreement signed. Then subsequent to that, now they had the Lome Peace Accord in July. And for me, I'm fine, I'm done with that. I've connected these people, I'm very happy, we have peace. The Lome Peace Accord has been signed. And I'm in America sometime in August. And it was Auntie Stella who calls me, Obasanjo's wife. And she says, there seems to be a problem with the peace process in Sierra Leone. She says, they've signed the peace accord, everything, but it's like for them to go back to Sierra Leone, one of the men is protesting that he will not go back. So I said, what man is this? He said, well, I don't know, but if you talk to your uncle, he'll be able to explain to you. So Obasanjo explains to me that this was now Johnny Paul Korowa. Johnny Paul had all his people, including his wife, in Kailaun, virtually under captivity. He had been set free as part of all these negotiations, the Lome Peace Accord, everything. He had been released to go to Lome after the West Side boys had agitated, and he was made some kind of something, commission for peace, some type of title. But for them to go back, to come to Sierra Leone, to start the peace process, he said he would not go. Now, at that time, he was in Lome he was in Liberia. They had now come to Liberia, but to move from Liberia now to come to Sierra Leone, he protested that he would not go until his people are released from Boedu Kailamu. So I'm in America, and Auntie Stella calls me and she tells me, and I speak to President Obasanjo, and he's like saying that there's a stalemate. Can you go down to Liberia and find out what is the real issue? I trust whatever you will tell me, because I'm getting to Liberia and pick up Johnny Paul Kuruma's wife and all these APC politicians.
Did he do that through the president then, Amatijan Kapuwa?
Not to, of course, because you see what was happening. You were getting different mixed signals. President Kapuwa was giving his own explanation. The then Liberian president was it wasn't the Tijan Kabal regime in Freetown. Johnny Paul was basically under kidnap of the RUF at that time in Liberia. He was only released when the West Side Boys protested, and they released only him. But now here's the interesting part. When the helicopters went to pick up these Johnny Paul's wife and these politicians, I didn't know who they were. I just knew that for Johnny Paul to say, I'm not going back to Freetown.
I am going to add a designation to the number of designations that I have. I'm going to also call you, describe you, Sylvia, the facilitator at some point in the program. But I think you have actually bear the role and the significant role probably that you played in that regard. I mean, especially on the notes that the president of Nigeria had to call, have confidence in all the
big time confidence, and it was
have this sort of. But then we that has been established, and I'm sure the people now know how it all started. But for that intervention, it would have actually been something difficult to unlock this. Let's talk about this same. It's about you now, having realized your role. I mean, insofar as the peace process is an issue. Let's talk about your early political leadership. I mean, we know you had an early run at leading a political party. We heard of, was it the YPP or so?
The Young People's Party.
Yes. What informed that decision, though?
It's the same thing like what happened when I was a student leader. I was in America, and I get this email from people I had never met in my life. This was in 2001, 2 years after the peace process, after the Norway Peace Accord, after the, it was 2001. The country was stabilizing a little bit, political activities was happening. I'm in America. I was assisting people in Sierra Leone. There are lots and lots of people who, because I was very successful now, I must say that a lot of people who were then in exile in America as Nigerians, a chunk of them went back to Nigeria, contested elections and became governors, speakers, parliamentarians, powerful people, senators, and they were giving me a lot of contracts, especially in the area of ICT. So I didn't have any money shortage. I had money. I would always in Nigeria, different places. I created a company. It was called westafrica.net, registered in Washington DC, London. I had money. I was in poor by any stretch of the imagination. I was in poor. I had a lot of money, and people knew I had money. So I get this email in 2001 from these Sierra Leoneans. I had never met them. One of them was called Cornelius DeVoe. Another one was called.
You mean the former Deputy Information Minister?
Yes.
For the All People's Congress.
Oh yes, he was the chairman of the YPP. He was the national chairman of the Young People's Party. He actually recruited me to be the YPP leader. Yes. So they send me an email and they tell me about how they admire me and they want me to come and lead this political party that has been provisionally registered.
How old were you then?
29 years of age.
And they wanted you to lead a political party?
Yes. And the party was called Young People's Party. They had the late Dr. Alusain Fofana, the husband of Yasmin Jusu Sharif, was initially working with them as de facto leader. Then Ambassador Joe Blair, the then ambassador, he also was working with the YPP. But these were older men. And the youth said, no, we don't want you, we want somebody young. So that's how they reached out to me. I was 29 years of age, and they said, we want you. So it's in the same way I was identified
as a student,
leader. It's the same way Cornelius Deveau, Mark Foy, and all of these people identified me all the way in America. They sent me an email. And they said, we are from this party. We had Joe Blair first. We had Alusain Fofana. We don't want them anymore. We want you to lead us. But I don't know these people. Cornelius I knew because his father, his stepfather, was a journalist who was close to my own father, who was a civil activist. But I never really knew Cornelius. But Cornelius was there, they sent this email. And I was like, come and lead party. At that time, I'm APC. Because at that time, we were the backbone of the APC in America. I was spending my money on the APC in America. I had money, so I was spending my money on developing the APC in America.
You still have, I would say.
No, not well, the kind of money I had back then. I mean, I had money back then. So I was spending my money on developing the APC because this was my party, my grandfather's party, my father's party, my mother's party, and I was spending money on the APC. 1999, 2000, 2001, spent money on the APC in America. So, but at that point, by coincidence, the APC got embroiled in big internal fight. And I just come and be party leader for you guys. I said, no, I'm not interested. So they recruited people to talk to me. And one of them who was able to convince Santi and he basically convinced me by saying, believe in these young people. They're credible.
Okay.
Don't have any doubt in them. I am giving you a guarantee that Young People's Party, he said, because the APC now is also fet inside it. They're not there for solve them problem, but you can come and
Tijan Kaba, and Bero led SLPP. I mean, relationship with the Ernest by Kroma led APC administration generally. You had a difficult start. It has
the people who really convinced me to lead the YPP when the 2002 elections ended, because I led the YPP into the 2002 elections. I didn't contest 29. I led the party into the elections. After the elections, the party basically, the message was President Yahya Jammeh of the Gambia. So not only Obasanjo.com website, but even Yahya Jammeh's very first website was done by me. was a young man. And I worked for Yaya Jammeh and I saw as a young man how he was able to lead. APC. Two thoughts, that is, you need to get 67% of people to vote. And not only that, you also need for that 67% to be 50% plus one of the total registered number of voters. It seems it's an impossible
processes and all of that. But did you confront him with that?
To my knowledge, as I sit here, and I'm going to be very honest, Ernest Baikoma never told me he's going for a third term. Never. So you don't confront him on something he's not told you he's interested in. I saw all this.
But you had an article, and what I even had that, rejoinders, like you said, was it the Honorable
Robin Fale? He said, Dr. Blyden said 67%. In fact, he said it was a public.
So in other words, there was some.
He said, Dr. Blyden said 67% at forget. We they get 67%. If I will get 70%. So I wrote an article showing the impossibility under the Constitution.
Let's talk about the selection method within the APC. I mean, as someone who was even, like you said, a student leader at some point, president or at Commerce, when you led the YPP, I mean, people coming around you, looking at your democratic, initiatives and all of those. And you are within the All People's Congress, and there was this idea of selection, rather than.
First of all, before we go far, there was a mini convention for the YPP. There was a convention, and I was elected YPP leader. There was a convention. But you see, politics is all money.
Yeah.
You have money, there's almost nothing you cannot do in politics. John F. Kennedy's father was the one who said you need 3 things in politics, just 3. He said the first you need is money. The second one is more money. And the third one is even more money. So when you have money in politics, you can do a lot of things. So I was elected as at a convention of the Young People's Party. I was elected to be the YPP leader. So I wasn't selected, I was elected.
No, but we're not talking about the YPP anyway. We're not talking about Sylvia in the APC and same more or less selection method, as opposed to election. I mean, we're talking about sampling your position then, whether you came out giantly, from your experience in the YPP where you were elected by some measure, whether that was really the way to go within the APC.
Well, you see, this is a question that's going to be difficult for me to handle, and let me tell you why. I have taken a case to court. It's in the court right now. You are a lawyer.
Yeah.
You are one of the brilliant law students who graduated, and you know the implication of discussing something that is currently in front of the court for adjudication.
Yeah.
So the judge has listened to me. I want to move a motion to be added into that case that has to do with selection and election, and the other side doesn't want me to move the motion. So the judge should rule on that issue as to whether I can move the motion or not. Now I think it would be very contemptuous for me to come and discuss.
Let's leave that for a while and probably try to know whether then you challenged that in court.
That's what I'm trying to say, because even now, in the court records that I have filed in court, there is a reference to what I did back then. So it's difficult for me to now tell you, oh, go look at my affidavit and you'll see so and so things in the affidavit. So honestly, I would want to respectfully not go near the case that is in court, because we are in court and I have to respect the court. If I don't respect the court, I will not go there.
All right. That's noted, Doc. I mean, but again, reports suggest Ernest Bai Koroma, the former president, was your idol, but it doesn't seem to be the case now, is it?
Yeah, I am a loyalist. I am someone who is loyal. You put me in a position of authority, go sleep and know that I'll watch your back. That's me. I'm a very loyal person, and I'm also somebody who is very grateful for whatever is done or given to me. But there has to be, if you look at my chest
the
here,
OOR.
apart from the OOR, right at the top, is the flag of Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone always should come first, Joe. Joseph, if Sierra Leoneans can just take the mindset of let Sierra Leone be first, believe you me, most of our problems will not be a problem. I cannot put Ernest Bai Koroma above Sierra Leone. I cannot do that. When I see something that I know is detrimental to Sierra Leone's democracy, and when Sierra Leone's democracy is affected, everything is affected. Because for you to have a functional democracy, you need a functional main opposition. Now, if there's no functional main opposition, there's no democracy.
Now, Doc, how would you respond to this? That in fact your frustration with the All People's Congress,
no, I'm not frustrated with the APC.
I mean,
no.
Seeking your
Take it back.
Because
I am not frustrated with the APC.
We'll come to the
no, take it back. I am not.
We will get to that. I mean, it's not so much as a statement of fact.
Oh, okay.
This is more or less, I mean, what
I am very happy with the APC.
What is being said around what we hear.
No,
that Sylvia, Dr. Blyden is frustrated with it because
no, this is not true.
You are down the pecking order insofar as those considered favorites to lead the party is an issue. I mean, that's what you hear. You go all over the place. Oh, she wants to become this because she's not been given. That's why
I've not been given what?
The opportunity.
What opportunity?
To lead the party.
Who stops me?
Pecking order, all of those.
No, we don't have pecking order in the APC. If I want to lead tomorrow, it's my business. Go there and stand. If they like you, vote for you. If they don't like you, they will not vote for you. So the issue of saying she has not been given a chance, who blocks me from being given a chance, is nonsense. What has happened in the APC, unfortunately, is that we have different thinkings right now. Different people thinking in different ways in the APC. And we have a faction which I have named the jihadist faction. These are the jihadists. They want to wage a jihad war. And if you don't support them when they wage a jihad war, then go launch Mamikos by you. And if you still don't want to take control, they would violently attack you. They would, I mean, you have them. So that's a faction in the APC now, most unfortunately. And we also have the other faction in the APC who believes in the original Shaka Stevens ideology, that believes that one man, one vote. APC for the grassroots. APC is for the common man. The common man must have a voice. It should not just be one person controlling everything. So we have that faction again. But the APC, I mean, there's a video that is going around. It's being shared by our political rivals in the SLPP. It's a video of 1969 when Shaka Stevens was Prime Minister. And you see this, they say, oh, APC, they just sonko, look there. And they're sharing this video. And you see this woman from different professions. Some of them are nurses, they wear their nursing uniform. Some of them are market women. And you see them, and with your permission, you see them, they're singing this song. And let me sing the song they were singing. Okay. Since I joined the APC, I never disappoint one day. I never disappoint one day. I never disappoint one day. Since I joined the APC, I never disappoint one day. Now, for those of us who were politically active back then, that song moves us because we know what that song is saying. We know the struggles that were happening why women had to come forward and defend their leader back then, which was Stevens, several times, not once, not twice. So the APC is a party that has different ideologies, different thinking. Now, if those of us who are not the jihadists, we have the jihad movement in the APC. If the jihad movement in the APC, you don't belong to the jihad movement. You belong to that movement who knows what the ideology are. What Shaka Stevens stood for, what Solomon Bratt, my grandfather, stood for, what S.I. Kuruma, C.A. Kamara Taylor, Bobo Kamara, what these people stood for. You know that what is happening with the jihadists is not APC.
Who are members of this group, this jihadist group?
Well, they have the jihadist leader. This is the one who wages jihad war. He said,
who is that?
Anybody is there. Is the anybody
we know
I go wage jihad war now. He's there.
Who is that?
He's the jihad leader of the.
Who is their leader, Doc?
He's there in the APC. They have him. He's not here now.
Oh, okay.
And it will be unfair to mention his name when he's not here to defend himself. But what I can tell you is that the jihad movement is the movement that is pushing this RUF allegation about Sylvia Blyden. And why is the jihad movement pushing this allegation? Because Sylvia Blyden doesn't belong to their movement, their thinking, their nonsensical ideology. I will never support it. Let me give you an example of something that happened sometime last year. I live in an area called Kokulbe, down by the wharf. And they had these forest guards go down to that place because these people, they don't have a home where they're staying, so they went to build on the beach, the bank, the water, and they build there. And the forest guards go there, break their houses, beat them up. And so I went down there, as a stakeholder in the community, I went there to check on them. And I was stunned, I was shocked, I was disappointed at what I saw. So I did a few social media posts on this and said I have to go to the Human Rights Commission. These people, their human rights have been abused. Now, I'm in my house one day and two of the people in the community come to me and they say, so and so woman in Freetown came to us in the middle of the night with so and so man. And these are both APC people. A woman in Freetown who is an APC woman, and a man in Freetown who is an APC man. They go down to the Kokube community in the middle of the night. And these people come to me, the Kokube people come to me, and they were worried and say, Sylvia, they said, Doc, you have to be careful. Your party people came here to us in the night. And they named the woman, I will not name her name because she's not here. And they named the man that the woman went with, and they named a few other people who went with the woman to meet them. And they even said they made a phone call to the jihadist leader. He lives in the provinces, the leader of the jihadist movement.
In the east?
In the provinces. The leader of the APC jihadist movement, he doesn't live in Freetown.
Yeah.
He lives in the provinces.
Where in the provinces? The east?
Not Makeni.
Oh, okay.
In Makeni. So they made a phone call to the jihadist leader, this woman from Freetown, this man from Freetown. And then they tell these Kokube people, these are my neighborhood, that we heard that Sylvia has come down here to talk to you people. We, the APC, we don't want Sylvia for show face for nothing. Basically, they're telling my community people that we don't want Sylvia to show her face in anything because APC doesn't want to work with Sylvia because Sylvia was RUF. So it's the jihadist movement, including this woman I'm telling you about, this woman here in Freetown, who goes to Kokube community in the middle of the night to tell them that, oh, don't worry, we are fighting SIPP secretly. We are going to get funds from the donors for you, but don't work with Sylvia. And we are going to get funds from donor community. We are fighting the SIPP. We get these funds and we will do something for you in Kokulbe, but don't work with Sylvia. APC don't want to work with Sylvia. So it's the jihadist movement in the APC that is floating this talk of RUF, floating all these negative stories about Sylvia. And why are they doing this? Because they want to be where Sylvia is politically. And the only way they can be there is by bringing Sylvia down.
Dr. Sylvia Olayinka Blyden.
Yes.
Do you want to be president of Sierra Leone?
Oh, most definitely. No doubt about that. Most definitely.
Is that why you are, reportedly, again, at loggerheads with the mayor of Freetown?
The mayor of Freetown is not here. It would be unfair for me to start talking about her. She's not here.
Would you, as an APC member, cast your vote for a woman vice presidential candidate other than the good self in the All People's Congress?
I have never said I want to be vice president. Never. To take that out of your mind. I want to be president. I want to be commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Republic of Sierra Leone. I want to be Her Excellency the President. I don't want to be Honorable Vice President. I want to be President of Sierra Leone. I was not Vice President of the Student Union Government. I was President of the Student Union Government. I want to be President.
Would you
But it's not a vaulting ambition I have. It's not a wild ambition I have. It is ambition that I believe I have put God in front of it. So if God answers my prayers, I will be President of Sierra Leone. But it's not a vaulting ambition where you lose sight of everything. Some of the struggles I'm facing right now, I will not face them if I just acted. You know, in Creole we have this thing we call Dakadeke politician. That is a politician who is, I will never be a Dakadeke politician. I am a WYSIWYG politician. What you see is what you get.
Have you at any point in time been thinking of forming your own political party, or do you believe in the same, I was born here and I will die here, and you remain the APC for life?
I'm APC, rest assured on that. But there's a threat to the APC now. There's a major threat to the existence of the APC. And that's one of the reasons why I'm in court. I won't go into that because we're in court. But there's a very, very major threat to the very existence of the APC. And it's serious.
What's your position on the state of the judiciary vis-a-vis special court for, sexual and gender-based violence, the anti-corruption and all of these, generally?
It's an unfair question because I was not treated fairly by the judiciary last year. And so if you ask me that question, there will be bias because I was not treated fairly.
Especially
I was
when
treated very, very badly by the judiciary. But I must say, and I must admit that the current judicial administration, they have made some very fantastic strides that I have to, in as much as personally they treated me horribly, but when you read these reports of the High Court going to places like Falaba, Koindu, even though Koindu ended up being a bit of a disaster, but when you read of these High Court sittings, taking justice so that people down there who never saw this before are actually now seeing that there is something called justice that is tangible, that we can see with our eyes that it happens. You have to commend the judiciary on that. You also have to commend the administrative organization in the judiciary, the master and registrar and the chief justice. You look at all the courts now, the main high court, you look at the magistrate court at Pademba Road, the one at Ross Road, and you see the changes. I've followed the judiciary for many years, and you see the changes. You have to commend that.
What do you think about the current legal reforms, being undertaken by the government in respect of, gender, if you like, the death penalty, cyber security, and what have you?
Well, one of the one of the challenges that I'm facing right now is from the jihadist movement of the APC, is that I don't know, they have tried very, very hard to make me unpopular amongst the APC grassroots, and they've not been able to succeed. Of course, they would get, if I'm asking for all those hand-picked executives to be removed, that's like over 1,000 hand-picked executives, they will not be happy with me. So those will not be happy with me. But the vast majority of ordinary grassroots APC supporters, they love me to bits, they love me tremendously. And it bothers the APC jihadist movement that despite everything they have said about me, the ordinary common man, they still love me, they still admire me, I'm still their iron lady. And so they come up with all these allegations about how I am working with the SLPP. In fact, at one point in time, I went to America, my nephew was getting married, I went to America for the wedding, and the next thing you know, the jihadist movement of the APC was out there saying that President Madabio took me on his delegation to the United Nations. Why are they doing this? I'm bringing this up before I answer your question. Why are they doing this? They are doing this as a means of getting the grassroots to hate me. A few days back, I just started getting phone calls from all over. What is it? There's the jihadist movement again, the APC jihadist movement, sharing press release. Sylvia Blyden is the new Minister of Information. All over the place, it is shared. Who was sharing it? The jihadist movement of the APC. Why are they doing this? Because the APC loves me. The ordinary APC man and woman, I don't bother myself. These guys who are on social media misbehaving, abusing Sylvia Blyden, these are agents sent to misbehave. But when you go to the real APC rank and file, they love me, they admire me, they call me their Iron Lady. So the only way the jihadist movement can try to destroy me is by spreading these lies that Sylvia is working with Madabio. Sylvia is taken to America by Madabio. So if you're asking me now these questions, and you want me to answer these questions here, you have just given food to the jihadist movement to go and serve. Oh, Sylvia, she was on television just praising Madabio reforms, Madabio reforms. So please allow me not to answer those questions. Madabio and the SIPP, they have their spokesmen, they have their people who can talk for them. Let them talk. I cannot answer in a way that will get the jihadist APC.
Do you feel threatened by these accusations from jihadists, such that you would respectfully not want to give your personal view insofar as these legal reforms?
But I don't want to give them more food to attack me. Okay. These people, I went to New York.
Do you fear for your life?
Listen, let me tell you something. Since President Madabio became president of Sierra Leone, I have never seen him. I have never spoken to him. I don't have any business with him. I don't have any business even with his ordinary assistants, the Keke Thomas and these and all. I have never seen them since they won elections. Never. The only person I saw, and let me say this today, was the one called Tommy Massacoy, who is supposed to be one of his personal assistants. When my mother died, I was with my mother's body when she was laid out in state, and they called me and they say somebody from State House is outside, sent by President Madabio to attend the laying out. So I go out there. I was thinking it's Kona Kuruma or Bonwuri, because these are my mother's contemporaries, and I'm looking for somebody older who is and I see this young man with a black mask on his face, and they say, oh, that's the person. So I go up to him and I'm, hello, how are you? And he said, hey, Sylvia, you don't know me? So I don't know who the person is. It was Adi Macaulay, the former Anti-Corruption Commission boss, who said to me, Sylvia, and Tommy, he was saying to me, Tom, and I still didn't know what Tommy. It was Lassie Kagbo who had to now say to me, Tommy Massacre, personal assistant to President Madabio. That's the time I caught on that it's Tommy Massacre. That's the only time I've seen these people. I have no business with SLPP. I have no business with President Madabio. His wife used to be my friend. Since she married him 8 or 9 years ago, I have not seen that woman. Right. But you would hear all these stories by the jihadist movement. Why? They want to make me unpopular in the APC. They have tried all types of methods to make me unpopular. It has not worked.
We're running out of time, but let's see what our viewers are saying through the messages here. APC hate this woman because she's hitting them harder with the facts. When you criticize APC, they disown you. Tiffman, but whatever. This is from Samora Kamara AC. I do admire this woman. APC, if they give this woman flag bearer, trust me, nothing can stop her from winning. This is from Ibrahim Kojent Jallo, I say. She is so sweet-tongued. She is so sweet-tongued woman and incredibly talented. This is from Alusain Abdul Kabu. Dr. Blyden is one of the female politicians I really admire. She is very intelligent and brave. But the only problem I have is that she is very consequential. She has no permanent friend. And this is from Castino in Lungi, I see here. One of the most popular female politicians of all times, Ambassador Mike Joseph Kano. And this one here says, stop claiming APC as a political party, please. with all due respect, and this is from your own political party, Lovell Fode Dumbuya. She has always been APC, unlike ABK, who was PDP before jumping to APC. This is from Momofo. A host of messages flowing in. I'm not sure we have much time to go through all of those, but I'll just cross back to my guest tonight, Sylvia Blyden, and then maybe ask before your parting shot, what next should we expect from you?
Well, they can expect more and more interviews. Tomorrow I'll be on AYV. Next tomorrow I'll be on the Koinadugu Bintumani station.
For that
You're right. On Saturday I'm actually on the new monologue program, and I'm also on this American-based TPN network program.
Why the sudden change to address the media this time around?
Well, you would remember when I took President Madabio to the Supreme Court at the SLPP and the Electoral Commission, I took them all to the Supreme Court. I petitioned the election results. You met me in court and you asked me for an interview.
Yes.
And I was pretty much impressed, because here was I going to challenge sitting president of the Republic, and you are one of his appointees, and you were telling me, oh, the SABC, we are open, we don't have any bias. If you want to come and talk about the case, you can come and talk about how you feel. I was impressed on that, you remember?
Yeah.
But you remember my answer I gave you was the time not reached yet for me to speak. A lot of things have happened to me, including being kidnapped from my house for nothing except a photograph in my parlor, taken, molested, and so a lot of things have happened. And some of these times you need to take a step back, think, look at the bigger picture, look at the wider landscape, and then come back re-energized. I think my presence in the democratic landscape is essential. It's very, very essential. This country is floating in a hypocritical manner. We don't have a democracy here. We don't have a democracy. Because if you don't have an opposition that is functional, there is no democracy. So the hypocrisy needs to end. And I think this is the right time for me to come in and help to end the hypocrisy that is happening, especially in my party. Because we are the main opposition party. The APC is the main opposition party, and so we have a duty to maintain the democracy in Sierra Leone. So I'm going to be speaking out. This is the perfect time for me to start speaking out. This is the perfect time for me to start restoring our democratic credentials. So I am going to be speaking out, and I am very, very hopeful that the judiciary might see, the court might see things the way I see things should happen in the APC.
Your parting shots?
My parting shot would be to assure Sierra Leoneans that if we all work together for our democracy, if we put aside our different biases, we put aside our different personal issues, and we push forward as a national team, believe you me, we will make it. For example, you heard how I opened up this program by praising the Foreign Minister David Francis, praising the ambassador in Ethiopia, Adekunle King. These are SLPP people, but they are doing a fantastic job of working to get, imagine, I just saw the news that David Francis has been able to convince Nigeria to step down for Sierra Leone to go on the UN Security Council. If we can work together, support David Francis, support Adekunle King, and get us back, because since my grandfather got us on the UN Security Council in 1971, 50 years ago, Sierra Leone has never been on the UN Security Council. So if we can work together as a team, when it comes to the interest of Sierra Leone, green, white, and blue, we can make Sierra Leone back to being the place it was that Obama was citing us at every opportunity he had. He would cite Sierra Leone as a success story, because there was a functioning democratic opposition. So I believe if I step up to the plate and I work to ensure we have a functional democratic opposition, we would have President Biden start praising Sierra Leone once again as a bastion of democracy.
Let's leave it here. Thank you very much.
And thank you for having me.
She's the politician, member of the All People's Congress, and a female politician who's been sharing her views and breaking silence after a very long while here at the state broadcast, the public broadcast, the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. We appreciate you for being here, for accepting to talk to the people of Sierra Leone through this medium. We hope you'll be back to talk to us as we continue to gauge, to sample the mood around the country and your view insofar as those are concerned. Thank you very much for making it to the SLBC, and to all of you who have been following us live on in television, those who followed us on satellite, those who followed us on radio. Many thanks to all of you. We hope you enjoyed this program. If you missed part of all of it, do join us next week for a fresh edition of the program. We hope at some point to bring you a repeat broadcast of this show. Till then, many thanks to all of you. This program was produced by Patrick Salia and Tilly Koroma. And we thanks to members of the technical crew. And like I said, those who followed us live on TV. Joseph Kapuwa is the name, which you know all a pleasant evening. Bye-bye.